My guest today is Shawn Leonard. He is an indigenous Mi'kmaq spirit talker and psychic medium. His gifts and tools have been used by people around the world to help them elevate their consciousness and also by the police to help them solve crimes. I can't wait to share this amazing individual with you today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Next Level Healing. I'm your host, Dr. Tara Perry. My guest today is Shawn Leonard. He is a heart-centered indigenous Mi'kmaq spirit teacher and psychic medium. He is the author of Spirit Teacher and Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals, which is available on Amazon and Audible. For over 3 decades, Shawn has finally honed his ability as a spirit talker and medium and his connection to the spirit world. His gift has allowed him to help people all over the world with his live events, radio and TV appearances, workshops, and his Spirit Talker Tribe online course. As he communicates with departed loved ones, spirits, and guides, the insights they share help us better understand our journey here on Earth and provide healing for many people struggling with grief. Welcome, Shawn.
Well, thank you for having me on, Tara. It's really nice to meet you and meet your audience and be able to share any type of insight, wisdom that I can to kind of help us all grow and maybe even heal a little bit.
Fantastic. So at what point did you realize you were seeing things and experiencing things that others weren't?
Well, I've been experiencing things my whole life. But, growing up, I would have never thought, hey, this is something out of the ordinary. I just thought this is something that happens to everyone and kind of brushed a lot of stuff off too. It wasn't until and now mind you, if I go back to when I'm really young, I have memories of connecting to what I would call my imaginary friend, but it wasn't imaginary. And his name was Sam. And me and my mom would have great conversations about what Sam would tell me when I was a young boy. And actually, most of the times it ended up being me and my mom arguing about what he would tell me because she was very Catholic. She went to, she's very devoted in her faith in that way. And I challenged some of the things that were said to me, and she kind of resented Sam a bit, let's say. And and then she'd always say, "Well, I don't know who the hell Sam is because Sam is your uncle and he's still alive in Newfoundland. And I just talked to him." I'm like, "Well, it's not my uncle Sam; it's a different Sam." And so that was where it kind of started.
Did you ever
And
get any pushback that this wasn't okay? Because
no.
this was
No.
acceptable in your culture.
She would just disagree with me and just say, "Well, no, that's not right," or whatever. And I'm like, "Well, this is what Sam says." And then I remember the day that Sam left. I mean, very young in life, probably about 4 to 5 years old. I was downstairs playing in the basement where I normally would with my toys, and I had little cars that I played with, and I loved them. I called them my dinky toys, right? And so I played down by the washer and dryer in the basement, and Sam would always kind of like this mature adult, kind of wearing like a kind of a gown of sorts, but not indigenous too. He was kind of like Caucasian with kind of curly, kind of dirty blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, but really nice man. And I remember the conversation he had me with when I was a little boy. He said, "Shawn, I have to go. I'm going to leave you, but I'm always going to be part of your life. You just won't hear or see me the way you do anymore." And I didn't understand that because I'm like 4 or 5 freaking years old. You don't understand concepts like that. And so he literally, I saw a light open and he walked into it and he was gone. And I cried. I cried for the rest of the day. I told my mom that Sam had left, and I know she was pretty happy because we'd argued so much about what Sam said. But I kind of felt him around, and there was moments in my life where I felt him there, and I may be able to even.
Was he an angel? Was he?
Well, some people may refer to spirits like this as an angelic being of sorts. I'd like to say he's like a spiritual guide.
Mhm.
And I believe that we all have spiritual guides who walk with us. And you may think that this is like, insider intuition that's coming to us, but sometimes I think our thoughts are being given to us like subconsciously that are like kind of injected into our subconscious with our guides' help. And because they're not there to interfere in our lives. they're there to guide our lives as best as they can. And we still have free will and choice. They can't make us do things, but they can suggest, or subtly align things that you see things repeated over and over and over again until you get the message. And, but, I know they're watching out for me. And I've had another encounter with him physically in life, but I was an adult at that time. But that's not kind of what started this off. I was still just a little boy, I was just living life, riding my bike and doing all kinds of strange and mysterious things. And, although I was one of this kids were a little different, and, we had a bookmobile. I don't know if you would know what a bookmobile is because we didn't have a library. We just had a bus that came up onto our hill in Nova Scotia where I lived and brought books, and I'd be the one in there looking for how to bend spoons with your mind, how to do what is psychokinesis. I was always like looking up strange and abstract things but this is where sometimes I think we're being guided unconsciously. There's something wanting to express itself through us within life. And so there was this kind of innate curiosity to understand many things that I didn't understand, especially when it comes to spirit, spirituality, and connection, and ghosts and things like that. And so that's kind of what triggered life. But life takes over. Like, I think this is what happens to all of us mostly, is that we become engaged in life and so many other things. We start to have friends, we have different hobbies and different things. That video games came out, for God's sake. I remember the Commodore VIC 20 coming out, and that was like, a life-changing moment back in the day. And a very rudimentary, and to even play a game, you had to like program it to even have like a game that bounced the ball back and forth.
I remember these games, and they were very rudimentary, but boy, were they a big deal. Hey guys, studies are showing that 68% of people that watch podcasts regularly don't click the subscribe button. Do me a huge favor. If you like this content, click subscribe so other people know where to go for the cool stuff. Thank you.
And then, as again, life progresses, girls, music, guitars, stuff like this, getting a job. But, if I was to give you another life-changing moment of like kind of awakening or connection, it was probably when my dad passed away when I was 15 years old. It was a traumatic event, right? Very traumatic event to be part of. And I'll explain to the event because I was 15. It was October 16th, 1987. And my mom came running into my room very early in the morning, around 5 o'clock in the morning, and said, "Wake up, Shawn, you need to go out and help your dad. He's out on the driveway." And now my dad was 42 years old. We'd just been working on the garage on the weekend, and he complained of having some chest pains, and he was sweating a little bit, short of breath. Now, mind you, he smoked, he drank a little bit. He didn't really care for his wellness, and I think he was sneaking stuff that my mom didn't want him to have in regards to food and stuff like this. So, and he was in the Navy. So he had this kind of high stress, job as well on top of things. So probably boosted his blood pressure because of stress and such. And the natural progression happened where he unfortunately lost his life. And in the moment that my mom had asked me to go out and help him, I ran out to the driveway. And this is where it kind of gets, I won't say superstitious, but spiritual. Because when I went out to where my dad's truck was in the driveway, I could see, and we just got this truck. It was an old Ford truck. The door was open. It was cold because back then it was colder than it is now in Canada. And the exhaust was going. You could see your breath. I'm out in my pajamas, in my bare feet. And, I can see the truck running, and I walk around the whole truck and I can't see my father. And I'm puzzled because my mom said he was out laying there somewhere and I couldn't find him. So I'm back in the house. I told my mom, I said, "Listen, Mom, are you sure you okay? And did you and Dad have an argument? Did he go somewhere, And no, go back out there." She was calling 911 and neighbors and such. So I went back out. Still, no, I couldn't see my father. Wasn't there. So on the third attempt, I went in and I said, "Mom, okay, you're going to have to show me where Dad is because I can't find him." So she brought me out and she literally pointed me at my dad, who was laying in front of the truck door on the ground. And I'm going to tell you, he was invisible to me.
Wow.
I was not able to see him until my mom pointed me at him. And I mean, there may be like kind of psychological reasoning for this. It could have been shock. It could have been, I wasn't prepared to face like something like this in my life at that age. I've never experienced like loss before. So there's so many things that would have maybe blocked my ability to kind of see that happening. But I also like to think that potentially that I wasn't meant to find them. That, certain things that happen in people's lives there's a fate. We all have a journey through life. And I feel in my spirit and soul that that was my father's time to go home. I performed CPR. But I knew, I mean, and I know if anybody that's listening, have had the experience that, when you experience a loss for the first time and you see the shell of a person, there's an emptiness there. There's no aura, there's no vibration, there's no sense of a spirit being in the body. And, I was, even though I'm part Mi'kmaq and identify as Indigenous in Canada and status, but I didn't really have any deep connection to my culture, really any type of spiritual faith of sorts. Even though my mom made me to go to church every Sunday, I was very resistant. Trust me, I dragged my feet there and back probably. But I yelled at the Creator. I prayed. I didn't know what I was praying, but I was yelling at my father, swearing at my dad. I said, get back in your body. And I know that he could hear me. I could feel. I could sense. I knew in my spirit he could hear me, and I could sense his spirit, but I knew it wasn't in the physical aspect of my dad. And it seemed like an eternity, but I came to realization that he wasn't coming back. And then some more neighbors come down, and sure enough, my dad had made his journey home to the spirit world that day at 42. So it was about a year later. I was grieving, as everybody grieves, in their own different ways. And one of my ways, and I'm not like saying this is the right way to go because I was a young boy, but I hung out with my friends a lot. I failed the grade. I started smoking weed. I was like doing all kinds of things that worried my mother even further, right? But one night, I had slept downstairs because, I had a plan that, when my mom would go to sleep, I'd sneak out and hang with my friends. So I did that, which is my way of grieving and coping and dealing. And I came back. I had not been smoking any marijuana or anything like that. I wasn't under the influence of anything. And I just went to sleep on the couch. And I woke up probably around 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I woke up, I could see my dad standing at the end of the room. Actually, I didn't see him standing right away. I saw a ball of light, like a baseball. And then it grew to a basketball and then grew larger and larger. And this light was undescribable from words that I can say, but it was bright, but my eyes could stare at it and it didn't hurt my eyes. And as it grew to the large, to the size of a person, out walks my dad out of this light. And he's wearing, again, something that Sam wore back when I was young, a long white robe. And the first thought I thought when I saw it is like, what the hell are you wearing, man? There's no way my dad could be caught dead wearing this, literally. And he was like a hunter. He smoked, he swore, he was in the Navy, drank here and time. This is not what I'm expecting my father to show up as. And then became angry because I had frustration of him knowing that he heard me, but did not get back into his body. But I didn't need to say it. He just said, Shawn, I know how you feel. You need to calm down. I've come to tell you a few things. Please tell your mom that I'm okay, that I made it to where I need to be and I'm okay. Tell your brother that I'm okay. I'm like, I will do this. He says, promise me that you remember to do this. I said, I promise you. And now, even though he's speaking to me, I see that light again, right? That light that is emanating from behind him, within him, all around. And all I could think about was, oh my God, that's home. That's where I come from. That's where I belong. This is where I would like to return to. And no thought of any repercussions of what and how it may affect anybody that I leave behind. I would have left in a second. I would have just said, okay, I'm ready to go. And I tried to walk past my father, and he said, no, you can't come here. I'm like, no, I'll just go check it out, I said. And I was lying, because if I get my arse in there, there's no way you're going to pull it out of there. And so I was going to go. And I could feel it. And I knew it was the source of all things within the universe. It was the connection behind everything. And I so wanted to go there. And I kept trying to walk past my father, and he kept getting in my way. And then he showed me two things. He showed me what it would look like if I left. And not only did I see, he fast forwarded. It was almost like I had a life review that hasn't happened yet.
This is like a Shawn version of It's a Wonderful Life.
Sorry. But it was just amazing, like what I saw and what I felt. But what I saw was my mom would grieve. My mom would grieve 7 more years beyond my leaving this world. And I would still go. I saw what it would look like for my brother, and I would still go. But he said, no, you can't come. That's not your path. That's not your purpose. There's something much greater meant for you. And he says, one day you don't know this, but you'll help people understand this concept. And you're going to help people make connections. And I thought this is gibberish because it sounds like Yoda from Star Wars or something, And he says, you don't have to do anything. It's just going to happen. He touched me in the forehead and I woke up. And now, even though that's an amazing thing, I just went above my mere life. Like this had to be some crazy dream that I had.
Well, it's a very common experience. I've interviewed a number of people who have had those passings, and one fellow who specializes in shared death experiences. And it's not uncommon that when somebody we love passes over and we can see what they're connected to, there is an overwhelming desire to join them in that.
Yeah, because that's truly who we are and where we come from. And so, I mean, it's inspired me through life. And, I would never say I embraced saying, okay, well, I'm going to be a psychic medium. I'm going to be a spirit talker. I'm going to have a TV show. I'm going to be an author. I never said any of those things. All I wanted was just to live a good life, to have a family, to have a job that supported my family. But, sometimes life has other plans for us. This is where I feel like there's a purpose and an intention that sometimes is out of our control. Whether we expect it or not, things are going to happen. And
he told you that you were going to bridge the gap between being the physical world and the spiritual world. How did you feel to receive that message?
I thought it was gibberish, to be honest, back in the day, because I heard it and I understood what he was saying, not in the sense of the way that I'm connecting today, because he never gave me an insight of what my life would look like. He just told me that I'd be doing this and there was nothing that I could really do. It was just going to happen. And that's how it kind of all unfolded. It was like the universe had a different path and purpose for me. And it was like being created without my knowledge of it being created.
I love your story of how you got pushed into giving your first psychic reading. Would you tell our listeners about that?
Sure. Yes. Because and the reason why I started a spiritual journey and is because I've had trauma in my life. And I know a lot of people that listen to your show have had trauma. So what happened is my dad died at 42. And I thought, well, because I'm now becoming a father soon, my wife is pregnant. Perhaps as a responsible father, I should go get my cholesterol checked. Now, mind you, I'm working kind of not a good job. I'm smoking, not eating very well, not taking care of myself. I go to the doctor and the doctor says, Shawn, can you come see me right away? And I'm like, that's never good.
Mm-mm.
No. So I get in, I sit in the chair and she goes, what the hell are you doing with your life, man? Because if you don't change, you're going to die. And she says, well, how old was when your father passed away? Because you're not going to make it to that age. Your cholesterol is through the roof. I've never seen high cholesterol like this and in such a young man. And this was like when I was like 26, So it inspired me. Sometimes inspiration comes to us in different ways. It inspired me to start taking better care of myself, obviously. And it's not just physically. There's this approach to life, I think that's really important. And it's the body, mind, spirit connection. So I started to exercise excessively, almost a little bit. I went over the top and I became a fitness fanatic for a little while, which some people do. But I started to, speak with spirit and critter, learn more about who I am and my culture and, is meditate more. And I started to kind of naturally, energetically change the way I see life and approach life. And it led to inadvertently these, I'll say, intuitions, inspirations, or connections that was kind of like unintentional. It was just it just started having these things that I started to know things how, and I don't know how I knew them. And I thought everybody just had moments like these, but the more I started down this journey, the more I started to have these experiences. So I go to my wife's ex-work, and my ex-wife's work, and I'd always sit there and wait for her because she worked at a restaurant. I get free food as I was waiting for her. So I had nothing but to do except sit there and people stare, right? So I'm staring at different people and, figuring out what's going on in their lives for fun, just to kind of say, well, this person doesn't look like they can be trusted with money. I would never trust them at the till or something like that. Or this person, they smell like weed, but I bet you there's a lot more going on there than that. And the couple that are awkwardly not looking at each other, I said, are probably like having an affair. And so anyway, I told my ex-wife this driving home, and she said, that none of that is true. Like, and what made you believe this? Because these people I've never seen look at each other once, and I'm like, that. Well, that's suspicious because if they're really not looking at each other in any way, there must be a reason for this. And she just brushed it off. And then a week later, she came home and she said, you're not going to guess what happened, but I caught the couple kissing in the kitchen today. First time I've ever seen them even look at each other and they're kissing. The cops came and arrested a guy for dealing drugs, and the manager fired the guy who you said was untrustworthy with money. She said, how did you know that? I'm like, I can't really say I knew any of it. I was just kind of a thought, a feeling, a nudge, an intuition. And I didn't really want to be right either. It's not like I was invested in being right or wrong or anything. So her and, she started telling some of the other waitresses. And one of the other waitresses was named Jen Syme. And Jen had lost some people, lost her grandma, and lost someone else. And she wanted to come see me because she thought that I might have some abilities. I never thought I had abilities, but they thought I had abilities. So Jen comes over, we have supper, and then after supper, I'm going to like tune into Jen. So I'm telling Jen up front, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, Jen. I'll do my best. Don't have any expectations. But she says, just trust yourself. Like, I think that there's something going on there that you have a natural gift or ability that maybe some people just aren't aware of. Just allow it to flow. So she gave me encouragement. So I did. I started to kind of vibrate, turned into a grandmom, and I thought was safe, I figured like, she lost somebody, probably a grandmom. And then I visualized what a grandmom would look like, described her to the best of my ability. Right. And she goes, oh my God, that's my grandmom. I'm like, really? Like, it's so generic though. Right. And then I started hearing a name about, Dale and her. And then I started having like thoughts of her, like traveling and caring for people's homes and pets and stuff. And she goes, me and Dale, I just met Dale. We're dating. We just talked about this. I'm like, really? Like, I was like really surprised that I was, but then again, is this because this is in her consciousness? Right. I'm very skeptical at the beginning because like, I'm not 100% like sure yet. And then she goes, but that's not who I want to talk to. I'm like, oh, great. Challenge the guy that really did. So I was like, this is like my first time, and she goes, just try, go, try. So I tried and for what, and I kind of focused, like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't, staring at the floor, call it my floor crystal ball. And then I have a vision in my mind and it's like a daydream. And the daydream is of a young man who's about 15 or 16 years old. He's wearing a baseball uniform. He has a baseball number on. He has a baseball in his hand. He's bouncing it up and down. He's outside in his backyard. I see a shed, and he walks into the shed, and the doors close. And that's all I see. I don't know who this person is, and I don't even want to tell her. She goes, just tell me. So I told her, and she cried. She goes, that's who I was hoping to make a connection to. I lost my best friend growing up in high school. We played baseball together. And one night after a game, he went into the shed and he hung himself, unfortunately. And I've always wanted to know that he's okay. And I didn't even really know how to answer that, to be honest, at the beginning. I just said, I feel he's okay. I saw him smile. I feel his energy. I say, I feel he's okay. So I did the best with my vocabulary and what I knew. And so again, thinking about what my dad said and all this, right? It's, I still didn't go, okay, well, I'm going to hang up my sign outside, come see Shawn. It was everyone else that said, you got to go see Shawn. And so I had 10 other waitresses call me, and then some other waitresses and friends of waitresses. Next, I've got people calling me, and I never like put out anything that I was going to do this or I wanted to do this or anything. It was like spirit had a plan for me that I was like, kind of unconsciously unwilling, knowing that I was part of, but I was still part of it.
Before you knew it, you had a 6-month waiting list.
I did. I was booked. And then it went up to like 2 years at one point when I was
Oh,
booked.
my Lord.
And I mean, I've been doing this work since my mid-20s. I'm 53, so it's been a while. And many years over the years, I'm human. I've taken a few steps back because I felt overwhelmed, and still, as many people are when they're trying to follow something in life that they want to, there might be fear or anxiety or stress that maybe kind of leads them to in some ways. And my mom's little mental mind virus in the back of my head going, you can't leave your job. It's Monday to Friday and you got benefits, for God's sakes, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm working all day, doing a few readings a night, doing readings on weekends. And then my marriage is failing, and it eventually did fail. And it's because I was juggling so much and not really following my truth of who I am or my purpose. And it eventually, even then, still resistant, and you can be resistant with life. And sometimes life, the crappy stuff that happens to you is like finding a way to push you where you need to be. So I had 2 knee surgeries, blew up my knee a couple of times because I was at that point later in life, I'm a mailman, delivering different types of messages. I say paper messages by day and spirit messages by night. And then my back went out and I couldn't do that job anymore. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let go of all my fear, and I'm just going to embrace the possibility that this is meant to be my life. And I stepped fully into it. I did. I stepped as greatly as I could into it. And I just spoke to Spirit and said, well, whatever you have in works for me or plan, I'm available, help me, and I'll help people. And that's my approach. I ended up having a 5-season TV show in Canada called Spirit Talker, which is on a network here called APTN. And that was even an answer prayer in itself, because I asked for Creator and my ancestors to help me remember who I am as an Indigenous person, and I wanted to meet elders. So they threw me in a show where I'm going to different Indigenous communities meeting elders, but in return, the reciprocity of it all would be I would go and help people heal. I would offer sessions to help people, connect to their ancestors and help them, move through pain and grief and hurt that they've kind of embodied for good portions of their life for different reasons. And so it was a gift. It was amazing. So I learned a lot about who I am as an Indigenous person through the series, and I'm very grateful for it.
Beautiful. And you've had some really physical experiences with spirits. Can you tell us about that?
Well, spirit's real. I mean, that's what I'll say. Spirit's real. I mean, and I've gone out into the world to explore spirit, let's say. Once I really kind of stepped my toes into it, I wanted to understand the spirit world as fully as I can, not from a religious perspective, but from my own personal firsthand experience. And I wanted to get out there. I've heard that there's like different levels of energy, there's ghost world, there's an astral world, there's a higher level energy where I saw my father, and I'm sure most of our ancestors go, right? That we connect to through our many lifetimes. But there's still occasionally I would run into a spirit here and there that would be in the home and not very happy, kind of grouchy. And, there's still very much people, right? Just people with like.
So these are people that got stuck in the physical world. And
well, they don't get stuck. Nobody's stuck. That's a misconception. I know that's probably pop culture genre of helping people think that way, but I don't believe anybody's ever stuck anywhere. Just like in life. If you want help, if you seek help, if you're looking for a way to move through something, there's a way to find your way through it. But many people don't. They stay in their pain. They still repress the emotions that they have when they face life and don't really deal with it. And just because you're in spirit, nobody says, okay, just because you moved out of the physical body, that somehow you magically, all that stuff that you repressed is like not somewhere buried in your bubble of light somewhere. It's still there. And many people transcend and go into the other side because they see their ancestors in the light and they're like, oh my God, I'm going home. And they go home and then they still receive healing there. They still have to kind of decompress, and there's people and counselors and people on the other side to kind of help you learn what you were learning through different experiences. But if you kind of, bypass that whole scenario by saying, okay, I have fear of, because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to expect if I move into that lighter space of the source energy. I'm just going to stay home. And that's what some people or some spirits choose to do. And it's very unfortunate because I've run into a few and I feel for them, because if they could truly, really know who they are beyond this human experience and struggle that they've gone through, they would never stay here.
Can they be assisted? Because I've talked to people and interviewed other people that feel that, at least in some circumstances, you can point them to the light and say,
you can help them find the light within themselves. It's just because healing takes place within yourself, right? You can't force spirit to go anywhere, but you can make them move out of your home if need be. Because if you buy a house and there's like somebody hanging out, maybe a good smudge and some good ceremonial words as you'd walk through your home would leave an imprint of energy that they're not in alignment with, so that they have to move outside of that. They might still hang out somewhere else, but they don't go far typically. And I've run into many spirits through my life, and I thinking, whether Hayos likes this or not, I'm probably going to write a book about it because I have a lot of knowledge and wisdom and connection to it. And this is like a really real thing for me, because when I've gone out to do a lot of, like, let's say, paranormal investigations, many places have nothing, to be honest. I've gone places where people say things are haunted. I've never run into anybody. There's nothing there. It feels like it's empty, or they're just avoiding me like the plague. One of the two. And I've run into spirits that still on their property. And there's one in particular. There's two in particular that I'll tell you about. There's one spirit. It's a minnow muscadab, and I was talking to my stepdaughter Taylor about this the other day because she has an interest. She's 20. She just turned 26 like 2 days ago. And she's starting to want to know who she is in a bigger aspect or picture, and understanding where she fits within all of the world of spirit and things like this. And so she's heard some stories from me, and I told her about this one lady, and she really wants to go. So I'm going to take her there because I know this lady's still there. And so when I was out there some time ago, let's say 10 years ago, when I was last there, that was on this property. It was a friend's house. It's in a place called the Middle Musquodoboit, which is a Mi'kmaq word up in Nova Scotia here, and kind of the center of Nova Scotia. And so anyway, at this little property that these people bought, friends of mine, they put on a trailer, not a camper trailer, but a mobile home that is like situated there, but they call it their camp. So I go out there to have a nice fire and a dinner, barbecue, and we're just going to chill and just enjoy the evening and time together with friends. It's a late September evening. It's cold. The stars are out. It's crisp, and we're having a fire. And as I sit up by the fire, this lady comes up to me right to my ear and goes, "I don't like you on my property." I'm like, what the freaking hell? And I'm like, because I don't ever expected it to happen. It's not like I see them walking around all the time. They just come up and talk to me. And they talk loud enough that it's like another person is there. And
you've been able to record these.
Oh, I can record them. When they talk to me like that,
crazy.
I can, because this is what happened after that. I took my ex-wife's phone and I said, listen, she's going to come back because I know she ain't done talking to me. I hit record and I waited because I don't know. I'm not like, come to me, talk to me. I'm not doing anything to summons her in any way. I'm just sitting there enjoying the night, but I know that she knows I can hear her. Because, I do feel like that we all have different vibrations, right? That like you, because of the healing work you do, you have a certain vibe about you, right? An energy. You can meet a cop and you can vibe their energy and know that they approach life in a certain way because of just the way they approach life in general and the aura that they carry. There's energy, an energetic information that is connected to people that kind of defines people in different ways, let's say. So I know spirits know this with certain people. That's why they're able to identify who can hear them and who will know they're around, etc. So I waited like 15 minutes and she came back and sure enough, recorded her too. She goes, tell that woman's son to stop hunting on my property. I'm like, got her. So I stopped. And now mind you, no one else can hear her talk to me. But when I play back, you could hear her say it just like that.
That is so bizarre. So if somebody's there and they're talking to you, they can't hear it. But if you play it back on a recorder, you can capture it.
You could hear it. It's there. It's tangible. It's recordable. I'm not a psychic ventriloquist. This is real. There's people there. And when you understand that concept and realize that there's just people, and I know, dogma and religion and things have kind of like sent us in this kind of way of thinking that, there's angels and demons. Well, there is light and dark, and, it exists within all of us. And some people are stuck in or muddled within the darkness of life that they lived, right? And that's a self-created reality that we kind of like choose to co-create within life if we choose to, right? And spirit is the same. They get to cling to who they once were because of fear. They're fearful of what may happen, or maybe they've done some things that they may be fearful, that thinking because of dogma religion that maybe somehow there's going to be judgment and they're going to like suffer in the pits of hell. Who knows?
What do you want to say to those people? Because that's a big problem with religion. Religion scares a lot of people.
I say, look at your humanness, look at humanity as opposed to like thinking angels and demons. Look within all people as they're born, that once these people were loving, they were loved by some mother somewhere, or loved by a family or raised by someone somewhere, and they were loved and they did care. And there was some trauma that experienced in their life that shifted and changed them to move into a different reality from love to fear and to maybe protection and hurting others. And, whether it's through like, narcissism or what have you. I mean, there's different words that we can use to describe type of like unwell mind problems that we may carry through life, right? But it's something that because we've not really dealt with, or we're not healed from, or we've not tried to move through in a good way, and we've kind of buried these things and they kind of become us. And then we get to see life from that creation. And I think, the creator of source, I mean, I don't want to say it's a man on a throne anywhere. Source is everywhere. There's no place that creator is not. And creator, that light still exists within every single thing and within them as well. And when you can see that as a universal connection, and my connection to my culture has really helped that, because we have a word in Mi'kmaq, and it's actually a word in all indigenous teachings, especially of Turtle Island, which is North America. We say all my relations. And when we say that, I say Emsid Nogama, which is Mi'kmaq for all my relations. It means I'm honoring the connection between me, grandfather sun, grandmother moon, father sky, mother earth, the mineral nation, the animal nation, the insect nation, the creatures that swim in the water or fly in the air, that we were all connected, the trees. We're literally light. And this is science. This is not like fictitious.
This is quantum physics, isn't it?
This is reality. You're made from the universe. The universe first was light. With the first form of light that came into being was a sun, a star, right? And it eventually went supernova, and the remnants of the star then create the possibility of life within the universe, and then form planets, and then get tucked in or connected to other stars, which give us unconditional loving light all the time. But I do feel like as indigenous people, we see grandfather sun. That's why in Mi'kmaq, we always like start our ceremonies towards the sun in the eastern direction, because we're honoring that first sacred light that all of creation has come from, and our connection to it all. We're all star people. And, you may see and choose to see things because it's whatever reality you choose to create. I choose to see one that we've all come here to learn, grow, and experience and evolve through many lifetimes. I'm here in this one body that you may know as Shawn Leonard or Wabak Gipu Agudamagic Jigmahamagic, which is White Eagle Spirit Talker. But we've been many people. We've been forever too. It's not like creation was a moment. Creation happens every moment, every second. It's ongoing, always, and always will be without end. And I think that's a hard concept for people to get, that we're part of the universe evolving. Because if you can see it within your life, the growth and the things that you face and the situations and how what shapes and forms you is what also is like the universe trying to understand itself through you, of what a small part of it is being and becoming, etc.
And at what point, Shawn, did you realize that you weren't just a mind reader, that you were actually picking up stuff that even maybe the person you were picking it up from didn't realize was true?
Well, that's just like, this is a good one. I mean, I have a story, and it's a real story where I connected to a guy named Orion. And it was a guy that I worked with, because when I really started this off, I was kind of unsure. Like, I even though I was diving down the rabbit hole here, trying to figure it all out and how we're all connected, and with different levels of energy and spirits, etc., that there was still a wee bit of doubt that I had. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But this like shattered my doubt. And it was when I was working with Orion, a friend who I played sports with and worked out with and all this. And we even got like fights a few times just over sports and silliness, right? But he's a good guy, absolutely good guy. And so anyway, I told him about what was going on with me. And of course, he's going to be a guy and challenge me and say, this is nonsense, you're silly and blah, blah, blah. And then one day, again, kind of in this zone, right? Because I feel like when this really comes to us is we're creating space for it to come. That's why with prayer is the ceremony of connecting and asking spirit to help you. But mindfulness, and I know that you know this as a hypnotherapist and such, that creating space to receive information or to perceive something in a certain way, sometimes these things are being given to us. So I'm in a state of, let's say, kind of like highway hypnosis, where I'm sitting at my computer typing away and in a zone, but yet I'm very conscious and aware and present. And then I hear a voice in my head, and the voice just says, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I don't even want to hear anybody right now. And I'm like, who the heck is Charlie? Because I don't know who Charlie is, right? And then I'm looking at Orion, and the voice stops, and I'm thinking, he's got to know a guy named Charlie, and him and Charlie doing something on the weekend. So this is my logical brain trying to figure this out. Just because you do this work doesn't mean you know everything. You're part of the process. And I like to say that, spirit gives us little breadcrumbs, and if we follow the breadcrumbs, we can see the whole journey or the path that leads us to the whole journey as you continue. But it requires trust. So I trusted. And I said, Orion, I got a really weird question for you, buddy, but do you know a guy named Charlie? And he stopped typing, and he turned and he looked at me. He goes, I used to know a guy named Charlie. Now he knows who I am and what I've been doing and what I've been kind of like learning about, etc. And as soon as he said that, it's like an image popped in my head. And the image was like a memory that I have. And it is a memory that I have, but it's also not a memory that I have. Because I see a bar sign. And the bar sign is the Town and Country Bar in Calgary, Alberta, where I was living at the time. And now the Town and Country Bar, I've been there a few times when I first moved to Calgary, and I remember the sign. So I see the Town and Country Bar sign go blink. And I was like, wow, that's so weird. Why would I see the Town and Country Bar sign? He goes, that's the last place Charlie was seen alive. I'm like, what? So you don't have to be psychic to know if you're last seen alive somewhere, something terribly happened to Charlie, right? And then I start to see other images after he said that. It was almost like I got in his zone for a moment of this kind of highway hypnosis, like being mindful, present. And then another image comes into my visual cortex of my mind, but now I'm having a memory that is a mine. I'm seeing a house. I'm seeing the back of a house. I'm seeing an arched roof, and I'm seeing stairs going down, and I see 4 or 5 shadows behind him, and I see him walking down there, and I feel blunt force trauma, and I feel something terrible happen to him going into the space. So I said, Orion, do you know anything about a house and going into the downstairs basement apartment of a house? And he goes, nope. He goes, who told you this? Because I'm weirding him out, right? I mean, it would probably weird most people out. And I mean, I'm challenging his belief system here in a sense. And he says, no, I don't know anything. I mean, what are you trying to say? I mean, I was in Bosnia when this happened. I said, how did you even know this guy? And he goes, well, I worked with him 8 years ago at the airport. And I'm like, and his name is Charlie? He goes, no, his name's not even Charlie. It's a Chari. We just nicknamed him Charlie. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to know you worked? I didn't know you worked at the airport 8 years ago. How am I supposed to figure this out? Like literally. How am I supposed to know that you knew a guy named Charlie, nicknamed Charlie, who was last seen at the town and country bar, and something happened to him in this house? And he goes, I don't know, but I don't know anything about a house. So we dropped it because he got angry, and I have to respect that, because it's out of his comfort zone. And then this is where spirit has a way of kind of like confirming things or aligning things to kind of help give me that encouragement. So I picked up the Calgary Sun paper and not thinking I was looking for an unsolved murder. I'm looking for the hockey scores because I'm Canadian, right? So I'm looking for the hockey scores and I'm flipping through the Calgary Sun paper. And as I flip through the paper, there is a story, a full page story about an unsolved murder of a guy named Achari. And it has the whole story detailed out that he was found at the town and country bar, and where he was found murdered was at his downstairs basement apartment at this address on not far from the bar. And they had a picture and it was like exactly what I saw. So Oren comes in, I put the paper down and we have a little conversation. I said, listen, man, tell me, did you know this? And he said, no, I did not know this. I'm like, come on, man, I need to know you did not know this. Because again, there's this kind of doubt. Am I some type of weird mind reader and I just don't know that I'm reading minds? But if there's something there, because I'm going to tell you, this feels like a person's communicating to me. This feels like they're telling me a story. And there's a part of the story you don't know. Where is that coming from? And he goes, I can't tell you, but I didn't know this. And then I said, well, you got to swear in somebody's life. And he says, I'll swear on my wife's life for sure. He says, I definitely swear on her life. I did not know any of this. Are you going to leave me the hell alone? I say, yes, I will. He goes, why is this so important to you, man? I'm like, it's because I'm not, there's a lot going on with me, Warren. But if there's something that's coming to me that's telling me a piece of information that you don't know, and I'm going to tell you, it really feels like a person's telling me this, it has to be coming from somewhere else other than you.
And you did a bit of police work after that, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I still do sometimes. I still do off and on. I won't speak of anything but I can't really talk about certain things because
of course.
It's a very touchy thing to talk about, to be honest. I don't like doing it, to be honest, either, because it's dealing with the darkness of humanity. And I don't like to delve into the darkness of humanity. But I've helped on a few local cases that I won't say. And I've had other officers from other places reach out to me for different reasons. And I've given some small bits of information or leads. I don't solve crimes, police solve crimes. And if people knew that I said things that could compromise cases. So I can't really speak about that. I don't work with families because I've had experiences where I have worked with families. It's not been good. I one lady ripped me a new arsehole one day. I don't like that.
Not everybody wants to hear the truth, right?
No, because she said I was wrong. And I'll give you a gist of it. But I was right. But she tore me, like ripped me out for a long time, and it just made me feel horrible. And I'm like, why do I put myself in these situations? So I'm only going to work with police at certain times because then they're going to respect me and my identity and not rip me a new arsehole. So and it was about she was missing a son. And they didn't know where he was. So I said, I feel like he's in the water. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel he's in the water. I feel like he's in this area. And I said, I would start at this lake, but then I would go to the other lake. So the police went there and they looked and the lake was too shallow. And then she called me and then they did find him near the other lake.
Mm.
I'm like, well, you told me he was in the water and you were wrong and I sent to the police. I said, no. I said, he's either here or there. And I said, I'm not sure if he's in the water, but I'm seeing water. And he was on the trail beside the water where I said, in the woods. And so anyway, it turned out real bad. And I mean, I was, nobody's ever 100%, right? You see things and you get perceptions of things and you're trying to understand it and you do your best. And after that day, I'd made a decision. There was another time too, which I'll speak in just a long time ago. I worked on a serial killer case in Canada. And I publicly profiled a serial killer that learned I publicly profiled them. And he contacted. scared the bejeebus out of me. My wife almost left me that day. And because we have children, and on my website has my address and where I live, and they did arrest the man, and so that's all I'll say.
Mm. What do you think about soul contracts?
Soul con, when we all have soul contract. I mean, we have a purpose for being here, and the people that come into our life. I feel like on the other side, prior, I do feel like there's a generalized plan with certain things that we're going to learn from certain people. Is it all going to unfold that we planned it like on the other side? No, it depends on our choices and our free will and things like that. But I do feel like certain people come into our lives to teach us lessons and help us to learn and grow. And I know that even with my ex-wife, even though she was my wife in this life, I've lived many lifetimes with her. I may live other ones with her, for God's sakes. And that's okay, because I don't have any bad feelings for her. I mean, she might not be so stoked to hear all that, but it is what it is. When you're on the other side and you're thinking about life and what you could learn from another person and one person could teach it to you, that's kind of like a contract of sorts. And you'll come in and say, I'll teach you this, which could be something horrible too. It's not always like, well, I'm going to come and teach you how unconditional love you'll be.
Well, I imagine usually it's not, isn't it? I mean,
not usually.
if we're everything all at once and connected to unconditional love, then this being born is a lot of forgetting all of that and the challenges that come along with forgetting all of that.
Right. Well, there is. I mean, there's many children that are born these days too, and even in the past. And if you do your research, you'll find many. But there's many children that come into the world. They remember who they've been through many lifetimes. And some children, even adults, like they'll go about their life and they're living in England, and then they fall and hit their head, and they wake up and they speak German and can play the piano all of a sudden.
I think Virginia did a lot of studies on that, didn't they? Don't they have a large database of the?
They might, but I just know, there's a lot more to us than just one lifetime, and we've had many contracts with many people through many lifetimes, and when you see people that are teaching you things, understand the lesson from what they taught you, but you can't cling to the pain. You can't cling to the lesson. You have to move through it and beyond it. And then forgiveness is also a gift that we can give ourselves, because it's not really about sometimes not having bad feelings about the other person no matter what they taught you, but forgiveness is sometimes just saying, I no longer choose to carry this energy within my spirit. This is energy that I had for giving. And you give it back to source, you give it back to creator, you give it back to, maybe future lives that maybe need to be worked out in some way.
I never realized the breakdown of that was that forgiving. It's forgiving. It
is forgiving. Not for having or keeping, it's forgiving.
So why are we doing all this craziness? I mean, if we're all everything and there's no such thing as time and space and we're connected to everything and, love and all these delicious things are right there in front of us.
Evolution of our spirit and we cannot evolve from a perfect environment. You can't. You can't.
Makes sense.
You cannot evolve beyond in a perfect environment. You have to have an imperfect place to kind of learn certain ideals and perceptions and concepts. You can't understand yourself is unconditional love unless you experience so many things that help you see where it isn't.
Beautiful. Really beautiful. What would you say are 3 things that somebody could do to raise their vibrations so that their life improves?
I would say 1, be present, mindful. The first ceremony of life is breath. When you stepped out of your mother's womb, the first thing you did was breathe. Your heart beats, and there's a space in between. Take moments of space in between all beats of life. Meditate, be present, be mindful, breathe. But also, take action in life. Be active in life, engaged in life. And, when you're active and engaged in life, do it in the best way that you can. Follow your dreams, follow your wishes, follow your desires, do things that bring you joy in life. It doesn't mean that you're not going to face hardship, struggle, and all these things, but yeah, breathe, meditate, and take action.
I love that. That is such a simple, beautiful recipe.
It is. I mean, it could go on and on, but...
What do you think are what would you say are three of the biggest mistakes people make that cut them off from spirit and source?
Forgetting who they are.
Mm.
That is number one. Forgetting that you're source. Forgetting that all things that exist and possibilities within the universe also exist within you. And through choice, action, inspiration. I say, I'm writing a new book right now, so this is kind of where I'm at, and it's I call it Grandfather Son and the Seven Directions of Manifestation, of living life and to the fullest, right? And so I've broken I am, because when things that you say that follow I am is it's part of your identity, right?
Mm.
But I've also broken I am down into seven directions in an digital teaching format. So I start off with inspiration. What inspires you in life? What inspires you to set an intention? So I've gotten two of the steps of inspiration: intention, and then take action, and then affirmation. And then when you affirm, then you move into alignment, which is the fifth step. And then when you meditate, to kind of like feel all those possibilities and to step into that energetically as you're living it already. Not you're starting with meditation and think that you have to draw it to you, that you're already starting to move into it through action, but you meditate to continue the alignment of what meets your action in life, and seeing an outcome or seeing a possibility for which you choose to kind of manifest in it. And I don't want to say it's like buying a new car. It's like, it's more about becoming who you really truly are, your purpose, really finding who you are. And at the end of it, the seventh direction is manifestation. Because when you follow steps, in life to kind of, to co-create in a good way and walk through life in a good way, then, you know, and the possibilities are endless, really, for you if you choose.
I love that. When is that book coming out?
I think it's 2027.
Okay.
I just finished chapter 11. It's due January 20th, for God's sakes. I'm doing all right, though. I'll get her done. I have 28 chapters I got to write, and I'm on chapter 11.
Wow. And tell us what inspired you to write Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals.
Well, it's to sum it all up. I feel like, because we're all of everything that we see around us is our ancestors, and they're supporting our journey as we should be supporting theirs. There's balance in life, and without balance, then you can't exist. If all the animals don't exist within the world, or the plant life exists in the world, we would not have life. So there's this interconnectedness that we have, and they also have spirits. And indigenous teachings, we see all things as having a spirit, and we honor the spirit, even though we may take the life of a tree for a tool or for a home, etc. We make an offering and thank the tree, for our meals. We also live in gratitude for the food and sustenance that it's giving us, because it's reciprocal, right? There's a give and take. We give out carbon dioxide, which the trees breathe. We are the world. We're the environment from which we come from, and we've forgotten our interconnectedness to it. And it was one night with, and I told this because when I first signed my Hay House publishing deal, I got to speak one of the CEOs, Patty Best or Patty Gift. And so anyway, I was speaking to her, and she asked me about some ideas. I told her some ideas, and I told her this one story. And even though I wrote Spirit Talker, my first book, and when she asked me after Spirit Talker, which became a bestseller in Canada, which is amazing considering the genre of which I write and such, then she asked me some other ideas. So I gave her a bunch of ideas, and the book I'm writing now is the one I really wanted to write. And she said, "But you know what, Shawn? Remember that story you told us about the polar bear? We love that. We'd love for you to kind of form a book about animal totems, as it's deeply connected to you and your culture and such." And I'll tell you the story quickly. But way back when, I didn't know I was going to be facing some issues in life with some people. Let's say 7 people became a problem, and eventually legally, but I didn't know. But Spirit knew, right? Because they know what's coming down the pipe for us all in some ways. So I had this dream where I was in this field, and these 7 shadow people were chasing me, and I didn't know who they were, but I was running for my life. And then out of the trees on the other side of the forest come 7 polar bears. And these 7 polar bears start running towards me and the other people. And I'm thinking, God, not only do I have to outrun 7 shadow people, I have to outrun 7 freaking polar bears, for the life of God. So I'm running for my life, thinking if I could just outrun them. And I realized I couldn't. I had to surrender. I got on my knees and I waited for the polar bears to devour me. And every polar bear that was there ran past me. And each shadow that was trying to do me a issue or harm, the polar bears would kind of pounce upon and just disintegrate. Now, all these bears turned around and merged into one great bear. And was one great bear stared at me. And I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, the polar bear wasn't there to hurt or harm me. The polar bear was there to help and protect me, to keep me safe. So I had this conversation in ceremony, right? Because again, words speaking in connection to spirit, great, back moon, which is the great white bear. I'm calling you to send me validation that I'm meant to carry your medicine life. Now, my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. Eagles, I've got eagle wings, got an eagle talon, I've got an eagle feathers everywhere. So, and my name is White Eagle Spirit Talker. So, but we have different animals that connect to us spiritually, and they share medicine with us. And it's something that was around all of the world, not just like indigenous North American people, but if you think of people of the Hindu faith, if you think of people, and even in Northern Europe and the Sami people with the caribou, you think about Egyptian people and their connection to like the jackals and the goddess, or the cats as gods and things like that. There's a deep connection, interconnection between us all and the animal nation, right? Even in Christianity. You think about it, you got humanistic people with wings that look like, that come from birds in some way. There's some cross connection between us that transcends faiths and cultures. And it's no different for indigenous people. So I asked the great white bear to send me a claw. I asked him to send me a claw. And in Nova Scotia, and I know a lot of people down in the U.S. will think, well, Canada's cold and probably got polar bears everywhere. We don't, just so you know. Nova Scotia is not. We don't get that much snow. It's a lot of rain mostly, and polar bears are nowhere. We have black bears, but we don't have polar bears. They live up in the far north, right? The far north, where the ice shields and everything are, and the Arctic. And so me finding or having a polar bear claw come to me is very rare, but I put it up. And I waited some months, and eventually I got a little gift in the mail. It's from a lady named Barbara Kemp Bishop. And she sent me a package with a little note. And she said, Shawn, I was just in northern Labrador, which is quite remote in the Arctic. And she said, I just met with an Inuk elder. And he gifted me 2 polar bear claws. And he said, this one's for you, Barbara. But this other one is meant to be gifted and given to someone else. And you'll know who it's meant to go to. So she says, I flew home and I thought about it like 5 minutes. She said, because I knew instantly it had to go to you. So I hope that you accept this gift. So this is the claw that I wear, that polar bear claw.
Wow, that's an enormous claw.
It is. I wear it every day on my heart because it's the medicine, that I carry through life, that walks with me, right? Hence, Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals is the name of the book. So it gets stranger. After that, another lady came to my house and brought a little piece of polar bear fur. And she said, she does part-time taxidermy. And she said, I just was working on an old polar bear rug for somebody and had a little piece left over. And I thought I should gift it to you. Mm-hmm. And then another lady contacted me and said, Shawn, me and Mom could really use a reading. We know that you don't do them anymore because you're very busy in life and such. But, my grandfather had this old polar bear rug in the closet. I was thinking if I offered it to you, you could help me and my mom. I'm like, oh, let me check my calendar. Yeah, I think I can work this out. And then another person gave me another claw. Now, I was just down in New York at the Rhinebeck Mega Institute, and this lady down there gifted me an indigenous mask, and it has polar bear fur for hair.
Oh, wow.
And then while I was writing the book, I had a lady named Kelly Finnegan call. And she said, Shawn, me and my husband, Steve, would like to meet you. We have a place in Canada called Tim Hortons. It's like Starbucks, but not as good. And Canadians might argue with that, but so anyway, I meet them there. They said, you know what? My Steve's father just passed away, and we discovered, or we knew that he had this, and he's had it for 50 years because he used to live up in the Northwest Territories. He's very connected to some Inuk people up there. And there's a story that this Inuk elder had to shoot a polar bear at some point because it became a danger to the community and was killing their dogs, etc. So they had to put the polar bear down, and he kept this rug. But this elder needed a sled, so they traded the sled for the rug. And so anyway, he brought it home and he kept it for 50 years, took very good care of it. And now that he's passed away, we don't know what to do with it. We're thinking we'd like to offer it to you.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, the synchronicity of this is I'm working on this book. Now I have 6 different parts of polar bears.
Crazy.
Now, what's the odds of that happening? All coming together in that way. And I think, again, if I was to give in a little tidbit to people, source, spirit, your ancestors are all listening to you. They respond. Speak to them from your heart, not with fear, with doubt, but with certainty. That's why that phrase "I am" is so powerful. It's where you come from in that energy, right? So I'm just going to take you off for a second. I'm going to show you my pool table. So on top of the pool table, there's the pool.
Yeah. Huh?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Dang,
it's over 10 feet long and 10 feet wide, and I can't put it anywhere. I don't want to stuff it in a closet because in indigenous culture, it's something that we have to kind of celebrate through ceremony and such. I have to maybe offer it food sometimes, like in a ceremonial way. I have to respect his spirit. And some days I come down and I sit with him and I talk to him. And I can feel like he's listening to me as one of my guides or one of my people who walk through with me in life. And if I need his help or medicine, and they have specific, all animals have specific energetic medicine they walk through life with, right? And we could call upon specific ones if we need to, but if I need his, I come down and I sit to him, And I feel like when I look at him in the eyes, that polar bear in my dream that all merged together, it is him.
Wow.
I recognize him on a soul level. And he knew who I was before I knew, he knew who I was before I knew him. And I feel like these bears, these great bears that connected to me in the dreams, are gifting me parts of themselves so that I can carry their medicine, not just energetically, spiritually, but physically too in life.
Wow.
And help people see what's possible. Because again, when spirit gives us things like this, it's not to say, hey, this is special just for me. This is help. I wrote the book to inspire other people to think about who all your ancestors are, and it includes the animal nation.
What do you think humans are missing out on by not having a connection and respect for nature?
Well, look at how it's reflected in the world in a sense, really. You can see that reflection of our ignorance in a sense of like how it's affected our environment in so many ways. It's we're building cities without thoughts of the rivers, the streams, full of fish swim and such. And it's sad. There's places for which that exists, and I know that we have to have a place to live in the world, but we also have to be more conscious of our environment. Again, we have to live in balance, and none of us are going to be able to eat money.
Yes, that's true.
It's not going to sustain us. Like, we're not going to be able to drink or eat money. It's a means to an end for things, but we have to remember the balance in nature, and then we're part of that divine balance.
If you had a megaphone and the whole world was listening, what would you say for the next 30 seconds?
What would I say? I don't know if I could say it in 30 seconds, but what I would say is love yourself. Know who you are. Many people forgotten. You're not disconnected. You don't need people like me. You just need to remember who you are.
Lovely.
Reconnect to your spirit. Reconnect to source. Reconnect to your ancestors. They're all around us. They're all connected ever. Reconnected with nature. Go to the forest and sit down and speak to your ancestors from your heart and just see, because I know they'll show up in some amazing way and let you know they're saying, we hear you.
That's another word I love, remember, meaning put back together again.
Yes, absolutely.
Last question. If you were to go back and talk to 7-year-old Shawn, what would you say to him?
Oh, I wouldn't say anything because I don't see anything in my life that I should have avoided. I feel like every good and bad thing that has happened to me was meant to. And I know no matter what I experience in life that I will transcend this form one day. And I'll move back to source. And I'm grateful for the life that I'm living, past, present, and future.
Do you think that's true for everybody struggling with a hard time?
Well, I hope it is. You know, I come on the podcast not because anybody's paying me or anything like this. It's because I'm doing this because I want to educate people. I want to help people. I want to help people understand from the knowledge that I've been granted and gifted from Spirit. And, you know, I'm not saying that you have to follow every word that I say and say this is like, you know, the God's truth. You know, let it resonate with you. You know, if there's something that I said that you know feels right in your belief system, then, you know, take it. You know, take a little bit from everybody out there. That's why you're doing podcasts, is because you're taking wisdom from many people. And, you know, it takes many people sometimes to learn from. I've learned from many people in my life. And, you know, and we may get a little insight from this person or that person, etc., but it leads to your truth. Be who you are and live your truth.
Okay, I have one more question. I'm sorry. Who is the most enlightened person that you've met in your lifetime?
Well, I met one person, Joshua. I mean, everybody would know as Jesus. Spiritually, if I was to say there was one person that had left an impact on me, because I know there's a lot of like stories whether or not this man was even a true man or if he lived a real life. And, you know, I don't, and I don't mean to piss anybody off. I don't think maybe all the stories about him are true.
Mm.
But I know he was a very connected man who walked through life and healed people. I don't know all of his teachings. There may be like some truth in the ones that we read, and maybe some of them are kind of fabricated or enriched in some way. But he existed. And I don't think he's the only son of God. I think he didn't walk around with his disciples and people trying to like help people see him as the son of God. He just knew himself as source. And I think that's what he was trying to exemplify for all of us, that you can do all these things and greater, is that see yourself as source and maybe move through life in your own divine way. But, you know, first of all, see yourself as source.
Shawn, how can people stay in touch with you, follow you, connect with you?
Well, you can get a hold of me, or you don't necessarily need to get a hold of me, but you can follow me. Go to my website, Shawn, SHAWN, hyphen middle line, Leonard, LEONARD.com. And my links to my Facebook, where I'm mostly engaged as my Facebook, opposed to my Instagram and stuff like that. But you can sign up for my email newsletter, and if you do, you'll get a couple gifts. I got a meditation that I give away connecting to your spirit guide, and 5 tips about kind of like living more spiritual life, etc. So those are free if you choose to follow me on my my email list and such like this. But yeah, and maybe think about picking up some of my books if you think maybe some of these things can kind of like help you or help you understand some concepts maybe that you never understood before.
Shawn, thanks so much for being with us here today. And folks, if you know somebody who would benefit from listening to this message, please share it with them. Please like and subscribe and leave us a comment. And we'll see you on the next episode of Next Level Healing. This podcast is intended for the purpose of providing information and education. It does not provide advice and is not meant to be used for any self-diagnosis or the replacement of any kind of licensed professional. The creators and individuals appearing here do not endorse any specific tests, positions, medications, products, or procedures. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.